All the bills that have public hearings, SB 204, SB 203, and SB 228. The only one I want to plan on voting on and getting out of committee today is SB 281, which is first on the agenda. Sponsored by myself, and so Ms. Gina Dearborn, if you will come up and give a brief explanation and answer any questions on that bill.
Thank you, Senator Shelnut. I'm Gina Dearborn, and I represent Daily Pay. Daily Pay is an earned wage access. It's a financial technology that allows an employee the option to access wages that they've already earned. If you're in the middle of the pay period, you get paid twice a month, and you're a weekend, and you need some money, and you don't want to get a loan, this is an option to get your earned wages before your next pay period. That's about as simple as it is. It's not a loan. There are no fees. There's no recourse. The only fee is if you want expedited delivery, which is immediately, then there's a $3.95 charge. Otherwise, it's free.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Senator Smith.
I move favor report.
Motion and a second. A motion by Senator Smith and a second by, I think that's Senator Singleton. Let's just do let's get a good roll.
Senator Barfoot, Senator Carnley, Senator Coleman, Senator Elliott, Senator Hatcher, Senator Hovey, Senator Jones,
Aye.
Senator Kitchens,
Aye.
Senator Livingston,
Aye.
Senator Price,
Aye.
Senator Roberts, Senator Singleton,
Aye.
Senator Smitherman,
Aye.
Senator Wagner, Senator Williams, Senator Shelnut.
All right, SB 281 receives a favorable report, 10-0. All right, we're gonna go a little bit out of order today. We're gonna skip down to SB 228 and have that public hearing first. So Senator Jones, SB 228. Senator Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill has to do with an issue that's commonly referred to as debanking, and that's where accounts are closed, credit is not extended, insurance is not extended or is canceled not because of normal risk factors. In other words, not because you have bad credit or you bounce checks or you don't pay your bills, but because of ideological reasons. So you don't do things that comply with some corporation's definition of what you should be doing. And a lot of times these places are using social credit scores, which is like ESG, economic social governance type things, to score people. And they cover all sorts of things, facilitating abortion, for example, or perhaps you sell firearms at your store, any number of things, and they're all expounded upon in the bill. And so what we want to do is make sure that folks' accounts are not being closed down because of their personal beliefs and beliefs that are protected in the Constitution. And I think we've done a good job of doing that. If there's any complaint by a consumer, it first has to go before the Banking Commission or the Insurance Commission before there's a right of action. I personally believe that the right of action in here, the fines that are imposed are very, very lenient in my opinion. I don't think they're very strict at all. I think we've been very thoughtful in taking feedback from everyone that's been involved and trying to incorporate that into the bill. You're going to hear a lot more better information than from me from our public speakers today on the issue, and so I'll just go ahead and yield for the public hearing, Mr. Chairman, and happy to entertain any questions as they come up.
Thank you, Mr. Senator Smith.
I just wanted to inform the chairman that during this process, I may have to leave because of another committee meeting at 1:32, 2:30, 3, all of the times. And so I didn't want you to think that I was being disruptive or not interested in to the people in the audience as well.
Yeah, there's a lot going on today. Thanks, sir. There's probably several of us that have told me they're gonna have to leave, so thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Katie, would you call out the first proponent?
Matt Sharp.
And I'm gonna put the timer at 2.5 minutes, so I'll give you that. Stop speaking sign.
Will do. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Matt Sharp. I'm Senior Counsel with Alliance Defending Freedom.
In the 1930s, in a despicable practice known as redlining, financial institutions created maps with certain neighborhoods marked in red. Lenders viewed residents of these neighborhoods as hazardous or too risky and would not issue them home loans. But as we know, such redlining was not based on financial risk. It was based on racial discrimination against predominantly black neighborhoods. Today, we are witnessing a growing threat of modern-day redlining. What large banks now label as reputational risk is just a cover for discrimination against businesses and consumers because of their religious or political views, or because they're in the energy or firearm industry. For example, last year, Bank of America closed the long-standing account of Indigenous Advanced Ministries, a Tennessee-based Christian nonprofit that helps impoverished widows and children in Uganda. Bank of America claimed it no longer wanted to serve their business type, and because Indigenous Advanced exceeded their risk tolerance. No reason was given by the bank for this closure. The same things happened to Indiana-based firearm companies. Chase Bank shut down the account of Arkansas Family Council, and last February, Regions Bank shut down the account of Democrat Nashville City Councilwoman Zulfat Swara. Again, Region gave no explanation for this closure. In response to instances like this, we're seeing states like Tennessee, Florida, and Idaho passing laws like SB 228 that protect against invidious debanking. This law simply says that banks with $20 billion in assets should not discriminate against Alabama businesses and consumers because of their speech, their opposition to DEI, or other specific reasons listed in here. However, nothing prohibits banks from continuing to use quantifiable financial risk to do so. So there's lots of reasons banks can continue to make decisions, just not based on the specific reasons listed in here. Second, to help ensure transparency and accountability of big banks, the bill requires them to provide a written explanation if requested by the business or consumer whose accounts to close, to the extent permitted by federal law. So if there is federal laws that limit the bank's ability to disclose, nothing would impede that. It simply gives consumers the right to ask for a reason to let me know why their account has been shut down. Finally, we just want to make sure that Alabama businesses and consumers are protected against this growing risk. Hardworking individuals should never worry that one day they will wake up to find their account has been closed or their card has been declined because a bank disagrees with their opinions or views. Thank you.
Thank you. Always like it when our speakers go into the time limit. All right, next proponent.
Matt Goddard. I hope I didn't get that too bad.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Appreciate the opportunity to be here before you today. I am Matt Goddard, Executive Director of the National Committee for Religious Freedom. We were founded in 2022 by Sam Brownback. For those of you who may not be familiar with Sam Brownback, he's a former U.S. Congressman, U.S. Senator, Governor of Kansas, and Ambassador at Large for International Religious Freedom in the first Trump administration. We opened up our bank accounts at Chase Bank. We wanted a national reach in April of 2022, and just 3 weeks later, our account was closed by Chase Bank. And over the course of the next 2 years, we got 5 different explanations as to why it happened. If it was due to a valid violation of policy or regulation, you'd think you'd get one story and it wouldn't change. But it kept changing on us. And we were concerned that this could happen. And rather than go quietly, we decided, we're going to make this an issue. We're going to find out why. We're not just going to accept it. And as we raised a stink, if you will, we found out from more and more people that they've been debanked as well. What happens is when somebody who normally gets debanked, they're kind of embarrassed. I mean, they got fired by their bank. You're not going to advertise that. So they go, we find out they get services somewhere else and don't talk about it. So we think the problem of debanking is more widespread than a lot of people realize. And the reason I gave Ambassador Brownback's resume a moment ago was just that if it can happen to him, if he can have his accounts closed by Chase Bank, then what's that say for the rest of us? As we think that Senate Bill 228 can go a long way towards protecting the people of Alabama. I would like to stress that the instances we have seen have almost universally been with national, big Wall Street type banks. If you have a local banker here tell you, well, this isn't a problem when you see them at church or Rotary Club or whatever, they're probably right. They're not doing it. It's the big out-of-state banks, the big Wall Street presence who are engaged in this activity. And that's why the bill has the threshold of $20 billion to protect your local banks from additional unnecessary regulation. The ambassador was very concerned, the reason he started the NCRF was that for all the work he did on protecting religious freedom overseas, He was concerned we were losing ground on our First Amendment rights here at home. Senate Bill 228 will go a long way towards protecting the rights of Alabamans and their religious freedom. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Becky Garrettson.
Good afternoon. I'm Becky Garrettson. I'm the Executive Director for Eagle Forum of Alabama. Access to banking, credit, and insurance is not a privilege. It's a necessity to participate in the economy and, frankly, to care for our families and function in society. Debanking is economic discrimination, plain and simple. It's a direct attack on economic freedom. It targets law-abiding individuals and businesses based on subjective ideological factors rather than on financial risk. Banks are meant to evaluate customers based on their financial credibility, not their political views, religious beliefs, or lawful business activities. Debanking is real, and it has already harmed industries vital to Alabama, including firearm sellers, pro-life organizations, and farmers who refuse to conform to political agendas. SB 228 reinforces the core American values of fairness and transparency. It requires financial institutions to disclose why they deny services. And this accountability protects individuals from covert discrimination while restoring trust in the industry that holds enormous sway over economic stability and Americans' way of life. Furthermore, SB 228 does not limit financial institutions from operating sound business practices. It simply ensures that those practices remain free from politically motivated discrimination. This bill is not about politics. It's about protecting the right of every Alabamian to access financial services without fear of ideological bias. This bill comes at a perfect time as the federal government is, through initiatives like the FIRM Act, is already working to eliminate debanking at the national level. Senator Katie Britt and other leaders are fighting back, proposing legislation to remove reputational risk from banking regulations. Ensuring financial institutions operate based on sound financial principles, not ideological bias. Supporting these efforts means standing up for fairness, economic freedom, and consumer protection. Alabama cannot afford to wait. We can lead the charge in protecting our citizens from this un-American practice. By aligning with federal initiatives, we can safeguard our state from the unpredictable actions of politicized financial institutions. Now is the time to act, to safeguard free enterprise, consumer choice, and equal access to financial services for all Alabamians. Please give SB 228 a favorable report.
Thank you, Ms. Garrison. All right, next, moving on to the opponents.
Mac Malden.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and the committee. I'm not a professional speaker, so I'll have to have my glasses. But I'm Mac Malden, president of Bank Independent, a $2.8 billion community bank serving 7 counties across North Alabama, and I live in Florence. I'm honored to also serve as chairman of the Alabama Bankers Association and a member of the Alabama State Banking Department Board. I speak to you today as a provider and consumer of banking services. Senate Bill 228, while may be well-intentioned, will create tremendous financial burden and unintended consequences for all Alabama banks. It will also distract the Alabama Banking Department from their responsibility of keeping Alabama's financial system strong, growing, and vibrant. As written, the bills are redundant to at least 9 existing burdensome banking laws that regulate all types of discrimination. Bank Secrecy Act, U.S. Patriot Act, CFPB, Reg DD, I'll keep going, but as a community bank, we can only grow if we help our communities. However, no one bank can be all things to all people. So we shouldn't legislate one bank to be all things for all people. Every bank has a unique balance sheet, different needs at different times. A bank in managing the balance sheet may need to grow deposits at one point, while at another time they need to grow real estate loans. Like all businesses, banks have different lines of business in which they excel. Each bank is unique. There are 135 banks in Alabama with over 1,300 branches. If one bank's turned down an individual or a group, there are at least 120 others that will stand in line to help them. While most banks in Alabama will not be affected by this law initially, I find it difficult to support any law that mandates me with whom and who I can and cannot do business with. The bill does not reflect Alabama's motto, "We dare defend our rights," and doesn't reflect America's core value as being land of the free. President Trump and his team are focused on reducing regulatory burden for all businesses, banking included. Please don't add to his burden and pass this bill. Instead, let's work together and continue to build a healthy, vibrant, and inclusive financial environment. Thank you for your time and your leadership.
Thank you.
Mike Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Mike Hill. I'm superintendent of state banks in the state of Alabama, and I find myself very few times ever being on the other side of an issue than Senator Jones, but we've talked about it, and I think we both respect each other's opinion. I know this bill says that it only affects banks of 20 billion or more, but let me tell you what happens and what has happened to bank after bank in the state of Alabama and all over the country with Congress. Congress passes a bill, one example is CECL, which is a very, very complicated way that a bank has to show the public and the regulators how they do business. It's very, very complicated, very, very expensive, and the large banks probably should do that. What happens, though, after a few years, they say, well, you know, let's drop that from 100 billion to 50 billion. Then let's drop it to 10 billion. And now it's down to every bank has to do this, and it's very costly. And you talk about a bank, and the smallest bank in the state's about $15 million, and there's no telling what he has to pay an accountant to come in and do this kind of, and they never use any of these products that they're required to show in this report. So it's very, very important that you understand that most banks are going to be opposed to this piece of legislation because they know sooner or later it's going to affect them. So let's talk about why they want to oppose it. I'm going to give you a couple of examples. One, customer comes in to open a new account, and the branch manager's sitting back there, and he sees him, and he got several rumors that this guy's selling drugs. Hadn't been convicted, there's no way to prove it, but he says, no, I'm sorry, we can't do business with you. Why not? Well, you know, I can't let you know right now. And so he's immediately violated this act. Or if he lies, he's violated the act. It's going to come before me, and I'm going to look at it and say, yeah, you know, you should have told him something. And he said, well, I can't lie, and I can't tell him why, because we'd be liable for a lawsuit because he's not proven guilty. So what happens? I have to charge him $10,000 for each of those violations. $10,000 in this bill, that's ridiculous how much money it costs. If you were looking at one of the larger mega banks, that may be worth that, but it's hard for most smaller banks. And so that's one thing. And then the manpower in my department, we have a consumer complaint department, both licensed lenders and also banks, and we get all day long complaints that we follow up on, and we check with the bank, and if the bank's doing something wrong, we tell them you have to change this, you need to go back and refund this money to the customer, or you need to change the way you're doing business. That's what we do for a living. So, you know, but there's no penalty unless they don't do it, and then they have to answer to us. And there could be a money, I've just never had a situation where they didn't do what we asked them to do. So anyway, it's one of these bills where, and I hate to say it because I'm not anti trial lawyer, but it's something that this is gonna be a dream bill for the trial lawyers in the state of Alabama. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman,
I think I'm.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Chair, first I got Senator Smithman, and then Senator Martin. Senator Smithman, first, you're right there.
And the only reason I want to yield to my chairman back there, I gotta get down to House Judy. You understand being Judy's chair?
yes, sir.
All right, but I want to just make let me say this first. The commissioner standing up there, he and I have probably been friends for 30 plus years.
Yeah, 40 plus.
40 plus. You know, I should I tell him the other part as I begin to say what I'm gonna say though, is that his father actually hired my mother to be the principal of Calera Elementary School in the turn of integration.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's how long he and I have known each other all this time that's going. So
She
I'm
was
trying
a
to
great
say-
principal too.
Thank you. Shit, but so to let you know that we have a positive relationship. Now, having said that, I have concerns, and I'm gonna take what you said, my friend, and I'm gonna show my concern. When you said that person was you said something about he was sitting in there, and that person coming in, and then it was something about rumors or something about he could be, a drug dealer or something like that. All right, now let me just share, Mr. Chairman, for a few minutes what I want to say. Unfortunately, it's just the opposite that happened to black folks. So y'all got, some of them folks don't understand how I am, but I'm straight up. That the opposite happens to what, in other words, what I'm getting at is that the same thing happened to black people who just walk in there because they're profiled. Now, I'm gonna give you a clear example, and Mr. Chairman, I won't be long. This was a time and period where I had my son who was in college. He came home. I'm doing a daddy thing, teaching him about life, about in a certain environment, how to get back home. That's another story we can talk about. So I told him, I said, come on and go with me. And I ain't gonna call the drugstore name, but they are one of the 3 top chains in this whole state. At that time, they would call something else. Same scenario, but I just want to show the point I'm making. I said, come on with me. We left the house, and if you go to my room now, I have a jogging suit in there, because they'll tell you, other than dress like this, I'm a coach. I coach boys basketball at Ramsey. So I dress in a jogging suit. I put on a black jogging suit, and just for the record, I'm a member of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity. And in case you want to know, Thurgood Marshall, Martin Luther King were my fraternity brothers. So you can, it's prestigious. All right, and they were down here yesterday for the state capitol. I walk in, I put on this black jogging suit that has the fraternity thing on it. My son puts on one. I put on some Ray-Ban glasses, which I have in my pocket now, those. And we walk into the drugstore. The same first appearance that he just mentioned. I told my son it's gonna happen. I said, the minute we walk into this store, you're gonna hear this sound. Ding, 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 ding. You ever been in a business? By the way, I've been managing retail for my life. When you ever hear that, that security got you on check. From the time you walk in there, you walk out. We walk up to a certain counter. I told him, I said, look over my left shoulder. He said, Dad, I see what you're saying. Security watching us and following us. We went on and purchased our items and came out, and security walked, supposed to be inconspicuously to the door. We went to church. I'm dressed like this now. I said, son, let's go back to the store. I'm gonna show my point to you. The same store. We walk in 3 hours later. They look at me. First thing they said was, hey, Senator, no ding ding, no nothing. I could have walked out there with the whole store if I wanted to. That's the problem here. That's the problem. Profiling. Just simply profiling with no basic facts or anything. It's almost like you're driving. DWB, driving while black. It's just that simple. I know some of y'all in the world that you don't live it, you ain't faced it, you can relate to what I'm talking about, and I appreciate that. But if you black, that's what's gonna happen. We get no benefits of the doubt of life. We get no benefits. It's like you guilty to prove you're innocent. Not that you're innocent, prove guilty. So that's what I'm saying in this scenario. This scenario is some of those things that have impact on people. I heard somebody even talk about some kind of other thing they got up here about redlining or something like that. This is the reality. And that's the problem. That's why I think somebody brought this bill. It's because of all these particular problems that people are put in these situations, and they shouldn't, just because of who they are. And if you think it really don't happen as I get ready to go, I'm gonna tell you this. Yeah, I told this story to all of them heard the story, y'all had it. Look, I'm on my way to the State House. I'm dressed just like I'm dressed. My car got a sticker on the back. But you know what I drive? My car got a nickname, and it's called a Scalded Dog. Because I drive a red Mustang that got headers on it. And you can imagine your state senator, you get that kicking in his Mustang right out there in the parking lot right now. They know it, they just laugh at all that, they know it. But being profiled, you see that car is red. I get stopped right in the main street of Montgomery, 6 blocks from coming to the legislature. Stick your hands out. Put his hand on top of the gun. Ask for my ID. Come back saying, well, I ordered you a ticket. And I'm riding 35 miles an hour in a 40 mile an hour zone downtown Montgomery. Only when I gave him my Senate ID. And guess what he said, folks? He said, it was worse than that. He said, I don't suppose to even be stopping you because you all have immunity as legislators coming to the legislature. So now can y'all see what I'm saying? I don't care how you feel from no business standpoint. The standpoint from consumers, that's what happens. And something has to be done. I can't say what, but that cannot be ignored. The things that I have just said. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to put that on your mind and on my colleagues' mind.
Thank you, Senator, letting me know what that dinging was when I go in the store. I didn't know they were following me.
Senator Barfield, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Superintendent Fields, thank you for your comments. I don't want this to be, thank you for your comments. Thank you, Senator Jones. Make sure my mic's on. I don't want this to be an indication of whether I'm for or against the bill, because I am still in the process of considering it. Samuel Colt developed the Colt firearm back in the 1860s or so, and there was a saying that God made man, but Colt made every man equal. I think that's somewhat true of the civil justice system, quite honestly. And we talk about in government, we talk about personal responsibility. I mean, President Reagan has used that when he was president. Talked about one of the platforms of the Republican Party being personal responsibility. So anytime there's a reference to trial lawyers and having, a trial lawyer's dream, believe me, this would not be the bill. And so I just take a little bit of offense to that, and that's no personal.
When I said that, I thought maybe I'd probably step on some toes.
I just want to make sure that everybody's listening that understands my position is that the civil justice system is an integral part of how the state of Alabama and all other 49 states and the United States of America on the 6th and the 7th Amendment, through whether criminal justice or civil justice, and it's a co-equal branch of government, and I think we shouldn't demean it or those who participate in it. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator. All right, next.
Michael Davis.
Good afternoon. Thank you. My name is Michael Davis. I represent the Association of Alabama Life Insurance Companies. I know a lot of the testimony you've heard has been centered around banking, but for the life insurance industry, we feel like this bill is not warranted and is redundant. That has also been stated. For every life insurance policy that gets rejected or denied, we have to, by law currently, report to the department why we rejected the said applicant and the reasons for that. and that is made apparent to the applicant as well. Never has a rejection been because of a religious belief or political opinion. It's because, you didn't tell us you juggled live dynamite and you lied on the application or something, and this was a risk for a life insurance policy. So, we feel like there's numerous federal and state laws that already address this issue for us, and that it's not warranted. It creates a cause of action. No, you didn't reject my application because I juggle live dynamite. It's because I, believe this or voted for Trump or whatever. That we don't want to create a reason for them. That doesn't exist. We don't make those decisions based on political or religious beliefs when it comes to life insurance policy. So anyway, I just want to express our sentiment on this bill. I think there's a letter from one of our members that we've shared with the committee. Appreciate y'all's thoughtful work on this, and thank you for letting me testify today before y'all. I'm glad to answer any questions if there's any.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Davis.
Thank you.
Next speaker.
Scott Latham.
Good afternoon. I'm Scott Latham, President of the Alabama Bankers Association. Members of the committee, thank you for your service and what you do for the state of Alabama. I'm here today really just to kind of wrap up some of the comments that have been made already on behalf of our industry. Banks are highly regarded institutions, and there are tremendously high expectations of our banks and financial institutions, and rightfully so, because we're in a position to hold the trust of all of our customers as well as our prospective customers. Bankers wake up every day making sure that they do everything they can to ensure that that institution is not only safe, but sound and stable. Bankers make decisions about opening accounts, about extending loans or credit with a lot of mindfulness behind those decisions. Much like if you or I were deciding whether or not to loan a neighbor $1,000, we're going to consider the risk of that before we hand that money over. So I'm here today to stand before you and tell you that our banks make decisions based on risk. We're in a risk business. So debanking is more about managing risk. It isn't about ideology. It is about managing risk. I don't know a banker at all that doesn't want his or her door to swing both ways every day with customers coming in, hoping to open new accounts, hoping to borrow money, because that's what we do. But at the same time, decisions have to be made about those transactions and those relationships that protect all of the other depositors of those banks. So if we find a very rare occasion that a bank closes an account, I can assure you there's been a lot of thought behind that, and there has been a lot of checks of various policies and regulations. There are many regulations that our industry and probably industries that you work in have that govern us. So debanking, again, is much about risk on the rare occasions that an account may be closed. Current law allows anyone who feels that they've been discriminated against certain avenues for going back against those claims, whether that's gender, whether that's race, whether that's being a part of a protected class or whatever. This particular bill goes way beyond that. It seems to be sticking a hand on the scale of, yes, you can make this decision or bank this individual, or no, you can't. Banks are always about doing the best thing they can for their communities. And we certainly appreciate the opportunities that we have in this state to make good, wise, prudent decisions about accounts. But we are not about selecting individuals for the we are not about selecting or pinpointing individuals to do that. I don't know the last time I've seen a blank on a loan application that asks for my religion, or a blank on a loan application that asks who I voted for. It's just not there. Thank you for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Singleton.
Yes, I would say, but you have seen those that have race blank, though, right? Those that question race, right, on those applications.
There have been, yes, sir.
Yes. And while I hear you saying what you're saying about how bankers wake up each and every day to do right by their community, would you say that discriminating against race in banking has been wiped away?
I certainly can't answer for any individual bank on what they may or may not do about a loan decision or anything like that. I can tell you that I am of the impression that that does not happen, and that bankers are ready, willing, and able to serve anybody who walks in the door and meets the criteria, certainly financially, in terms of either being able to open an account, being able to apply for a loan, or any other service that the bank may have. No, sir, I don't believe there are bankers today in this time that intend or want to discriminate against anyone. And you and I know a lot of bankers.
We know a lot of bankers.
In your neighborhood.
We know a lot of bankers. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Senator Jones, did you have any, we're through with all our?
Yes, I
Did you
want
have
to
any last minute comments?
address a couple points. I do have a question for Mr. Latham. I know the answer, but I just want to make sure that we agree on it.
Yes, sir.
Under this bill, how many banks, other than the national banks, how many Alabama banks would this bill apply to?
There's currently one Alabama bank that exceeds $20 billion in assets, and then we have 100+ banks that are under that.
Okay, and then there's one that's about 17 and a half or 18 that in a matter of years could be over the 20 billion, am I correct?
You know, the numbers that I had seen, if I were able to go to my attic and pull out the old laminated posters that I used to use in Rotary Club speeches, you would see the growth of the banks in the state having really increased over the years. One of the reasons that we oppose this, the superintendent mentioned a $15 million bank in the state. We were and are and have been subjected to a lot of things in Washington out of the CFPB. CFPB, no doubt, has done good things in a number of avenues of its work. But I remember when that bill was passed, when that became legislation, the CFPB is only going to impact banks X billion and up, 10 billion, 50 billion, 100 billion, whatever. It impacts every single bank and has increased not only the cost of banks doing business, checking all the boxes, doing all of the compliance. We have small banks in this state that have 3 and 4 compliance officers when they don't even have people necessarily all the funding they need to hire the people to go out and make the loans in the communities because they're checking all the boxes. That's what happens to the superintendent's point here. When a bill like this comes into effect, the threshold gets lowered and lowered and it all runs down the hill. Our banks are in business every day to do the right thing, and I suggest that we do.
Thank you, sir. One other point I just want to mention for the committee, there was some question about the regulation and why these complaints were first going to the Insurance Commission and the Banking Commission. That was, in talking with the advocacy folks in those communities, they requested that. So I guess this is for anybody in that sphere. Am I hearing that y'all would like that to come out and to just give direct private, right of action to folks? Or am I hearing that what I thought originally, that you like having a clearinghouse of them having to go before the commission first before the private right of action is available? I'm getting mixed answers on that in this hearing, so I don't know what the preference is. Anybody wish to comment on that? I mean, I'm happy to take it out, let them just go straight to court. That's what y'all really want. That's what I thought. I think that answered my question. I think that if they prefer it in there.
All right, thank you, Senator Jones. All right, and now if anybody wants to leave, if you're just here for the debanking and you want to leave, don't want to hear about dental bills, please exit, and this is your chance. Make some room for, thank you. Okay, next up. All right, next up, we're gonna have a hearing on SB 203 and 204 at the same time since they're both related. First up, we will start with
Dr. Rodney Marshall.
We're gonna give you 3 minutes. You got 30 more seconds than the last one.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman Shalnut and members of the committee. My name is Rodney Marshall. I've been in practice in general dentistry in Tuscaloosa for 40 years, and I grew up in Tuscaloosa, graduated from our dental school right here in Alabama. I serve patients from all walks of life, working families, retirees, small business owners, and I see firsthand Alabama's broken dental insurance system. Here's what I'm seeing more and more. Patients are skipping or delaying care not because they don't want it, but because their insurance won't cover what they need. Meanwhile, dental insurance companies are making record profits. In 2024, the U.S. dental insurance market reached $79 billion and is expected to reach $173 billion by 2033, representing a 9% yearly growth. This isn't really how oral health care is supposed to work. In children, tooth decay causes severe pain and infection, difficulty in eating, speaking, and certainly difficulty in concentrating in school. Cavities are a leading cause of school absences, directly impacting schools of the children's education and overall well-being. I regularly see children affected by dental decay in my practice and abscesses, and many times I must treat these kids in the hospitals due to the severity of the disease. We see children as young as 12 months old, and in most of those cases, they only have 8 teeth. 12 months old with multiple life-threatening tooth abscesses. Tooth abscesses in children can increase in severity extremely fast, much quicker than they do in adults, and rapidly progress to organ failure and death. These facts should serve us as a warning. Our system is failing our families. That's why I'm here today in support of SB 204. Right now, most dental insurance companies or plans operate on a use it or lose it model. If these patients don't use their full benefits by the end of their period, which sometimes is a calendar period, that money disappears. There's no refund, no rollover, no explanation. On the other hand, medical insurance works much differently, not having any yearly limits and coverage. This bill would change that. It allows unused benefits from 1 year to roll over into the next year so that patients can plan their care without being penalized by the calendar. We understand that this rollover in benefits is already occurring in the industry, and if the concept didn't work, it wouldn't be offered. This bill gives patients a chance to get what they paid for, and it gives providers a system that we can work with. Our patients and your constituents would like this to happen in Alabama. Over 200 of my own patients have voiced to me that they support this in 2025 alone. So I urge you to support SB 204 and help us make a small but meaningful step toward a dental system that works for Alabama.
Thank you, Dr. Marshall.
Thank you.
All right, next up, opponent.
Jonathan Ratliff.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and fellow members of the committee. It's good to be here with y'all this afternoon. I'm Jonathan Ratliff. I'm the CEO of Collateral Holdings. It's a family business my great-grandfather started in 1933 in Birmingham, Alabama. We have over 300 employees, and through our subsidiaries, Canopy Insurance Corporation and Southland Benefit Solutions, we employ over 50 Alabamians and provide dental coverage in various forms to more than 500,000 residents of this state. We also have almost 1,600 dentists in the state that are trusted business partners of ours and have been for decades. that accept our insurance as fair reimbursement. I recognize that speaking as an insurance executive isn't the most fun place to be in. We're fun punching bags, but we do a lot of good. And I'm not here representing a national agenda or a special interest group. I'm here as the CEO of an Alabama business that knows this market incredibly well and care deeply about how policy impacts the people and businesses of the state. Rather than walk through every detail of these flawed bills, I want to focus on the bigger picture that was just laid before you, that there's this misguided assumption that something is broken in Alabama's dental insurance market. In truth, dental insurance is the most competitive and transparent market in Alabama. I don't know of another one that even comes close. To level set, it's important to understand that the majority of dental coverage is offered as an employee benefit plan, not purchased directly by uninformed consumers, but selected through a structured, multi-layered process. Let me briefly walk you through the validation points of an employee dental benefit plan. First, our Department of Insurance, which, as members of the committee, I assume y'all know, we have one of the most respected departments in the entire country. The department reviews and approves every product sold in the state, bar none. They ensure reasonableness and strong consumer protections in all products that enter the state. Then, licensed brokers, many of whom are here today, and I believe you'll hear from one, they're trusted advisors to employers and experts in these lines of coverage. And they shop the plan against 6 to 8 carriers and present only the most competitive option, with pricing typically being the primary factor. Next, HR and finance leaders evaluate those proposals and select the plan they believe delivers the best value for their employees. And finally, employees then review the options, typically with the advice of their brokers, and select and assess the value for their dental needs. For the scenario these bills insinuate to be true, you would have to believe that every insurance carrier is colluding and that every other party in the chain, including our own Department of Insurance, is either compromised or asleep at the wheel. That logic simply does not hold up in this case. Now, just a few quick facts to put this all in perspective. Both the Affordable Care Act work group in 2010 and the state of California just last year evaluated both of these proposals, these exact policies, and ultimately rejected it, concluding it would do more harm than good for consumers. Massachusetts is the only state in our country that's adopted it, and even then it passed through a ballot referendum, not through legislative scrutiny. I chartered Canopy here. We're the first insurance company in 20 years to be here. I could have gone anywhere.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Peyton Billingsley.
Hello everyone, my name is Peyton Billingsley Smith and I'm a third-year dental student at UAB School of Dentistry. I'm here today in support of SB 203 and SB 204. I want to thank you all for taking the time to hear my story. I grew up in Birmingham and I plan to practice in Alabama when I graduate. My goal is actually to open a practice in one of the rural communities here. In school, we're trained to put our patients first. We study prevention, focus on early treatment, and we're taught to look at the whole person, not just the tooth. But when I look at how dental insurance works in our state, I see a system that does the opposite. I see patients paying into plans but putting off care they still can't afford. I see treatment denied, and there's a general sense of confusion when it comes to their insurance plans. Most of all, I see a total lack of accountability for where the money goes. That's not sustainable, nor is it ethical, and it's not the future I want to walk into as a new dentist. Right now, Alabama ranks among the worst in the nation for oral health outcomes. That's not because our communities don't care. It's because access is broken and insurance too often stands in the way instead of opening the door. SB 203 is a step towards changing that. This legislation would require dental insurers to spend at least 85% of premiums on actual patient care or refund the difference. This bill would allow Alabama to get ahead of a growing national trend. 8 states have passed similar legislation, including conservative states such as North Dakota, Arkansas, and even Louisiana. Furthermore, SB 204 is a straightforward, common sense solution to the use it or lose it model. By allowing unused dental benefits to roll over into the next year, we create more flexibility for patients and stability for the system overall. More and more of my fellow dental students say they will not be able to stay in Alabama to practice dentistry. Our average student debt surpasses $300,000, And with the current insurance environment in our state, it's difficult to envision building a sustainable dental practice here, especially in rural areas where the need is most critical. Consider this, in 2024, the graduating class, only 30-something students out of approximately 90 even applied for a license in Alabama. For me, this bill is so important. It means I'll be able to care for my patients the way I've been trained to without significant cost barriers. It means I'll be walking into a system that's built around health, not just profits. And most importantly, it means that families across Alabama, urban, rural, and everywhere in between will have a better chance of finding accessible dental services and staying healthy. This is an investment in Alabama's oral health infrastructure, and therefore an investment in all of Alabamians. It's a step toward a future where fewer children miss school because of tooth pain, fewer adults postpone treatment, and more people get the care they need when and where they need it. I urge you to support SB 203 and SB 204 to help build the kind of future we've been trained to provide without cost or access to care standing in our way. Thank you for your time.
Craig Atkinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. My name is Craig Atkinson. I come to you today as president of the Alabama chapter of National Association of Benefited Insurance Professionals, which is the largest trade organization in the United States for health insurance agents and brokers. In that capacity, I speak on behalf of our membership in the state of Alabama, of which we have several in attendance today. Over 150 members in Alabama whose primary occupation is to provide expert benefits insurance advice and education to hundreds of employers and thousands of individuals. Our members are on the cutting edge as consumer advocates for our client companies and individual members for employee and individual and employer sponsored benefits. So I'd like to point out a few things to speak out in opposition to SB 203, and I'll reference SB 204 as well. Number one, SB 203, we feel like it will increase costs. An 85% minimum loss ratio will drive up premiums. That is well documented in other states. Higher premiums means fewer employers will contribute, and fewer individuals will be able to afford the coverage that is being offered to them. Secondly, this will have an adverse impact on employee health. Of that, we agree with the other side on this. It's well documented, though, that the number one cause for lack of preventive dental care is the absence of dental insurance. As costs go up, fewer will have this important coverage available to them. Number three, lack of options. Insurers will be forced out of this state by unrealistic regulations. They will leave us with fewer options. Limited options result in less flexibility to choose plans that fit specific needs and or budgets. Number four has already been mentioned. This has already been rejected by other policymakers. Number one, by the ACA authors who rejected this for dental insurance, even while passing similar legislation for the medical plans. California lawmakers have rejected this for similar reasons. One thing that Massachusetts is one that has put this into a similar legislation in place. And one of the things that has already been well documented in that state is many insurers have pulled out of the state, primarily in the small group market of under 25, which in the state of Alabama, the current SBA numbers say that over 62,000 Alabama businesses have less than 20 employees. So we know this would adversely affect that small group market in the state of Alabama. Moving on to SB 204, it's already been mentioned here, we feel like it is unnecessary. Multiple insurers already offer rollover benefits as plan options. However, they are doing it in various different ways. Different insurers have the ability right now to structure their rollover plans to fit their specific different needs and to offer flexibility to clients to choose which one that they wanted to do. Market interference. We also feel that this approach is decidedly un-American, anti-free market. We'd like to see the free market to be allowed to dictate which benefits and provisions are being offered. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Dr. Lee Kent.
Good afternoon, Chairperson and members of this committee. My name is Lee Kent. I live in Vincent, and I practice in Birmingham suburbs, which extends. I see patients from Jasper to Alex City, from Huntsville to almost Montgomery. And I'm here today to represent the association along with the executive committee, along with Executive Director Michelle Huebner. For the last 4 years, I served on the American Dental Association Council of Government Affairs, and last year I was chair of that council. Over the past few months, I've spoken with hundreds of patients during their visits. Constituents are patients, and patients are constituents. In fact, I know that a lot of you have received over 8,000 emails from those patients in a little bit. I knew that these insurance issues were important because I work with them every day, but I underestimated just how frustrated people are until I hear their responses. This kind of widespread support tells us something. It tells us that patients are paying attention. It tells us that they need change. SB 203 is a bipartisan, pro-Alabamian, and it offers a practical fix. In a time when our government is focusing on efficiency and doing more with less, this is the right time for these reforms. Allow me to quote Blue Cross Blue Shield's direct statement from the February 18th article published in the Yellowhammer News. Quote, all other health insurers in the individual market are required to spend at least 80% of the premiums they take in on medical care for their customers. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Alabama consistently exceeds these requirements and typically spends almost 90% of every premium dollar on our customers' health care. We believe that this is reasonable consumer protection, as well as those discussed above should apply to Alpha as well, unquote. According to this statement, Blue Cross Blue Shield should be happy with an 85% loss ratio. 85% dental loss ratio in Alabama is crucial for protecting consumers, improving access to dental care, encouraging preventative services, supporting dental providers, and enhancing transparency and accountability within the insurance system. Opponents claim that medical and dental plans are too different to be regulated similarly. In fact, dental loss ratio regulations in states like Nevada that has had it in place since the 1980s shows that concerns about market impact are overstated. Opponents claim that dental loss ratio will limit consumer options, raise premiums, and lead to market disruptions. Actually, it will drive value to Alabamians that lead to greater market efficiency. Opponents claim that our bill will scare off insurance companies, or that it isn't necessary because their plans already meet the 85% standard. If they can't have it both ways. If insurance companies are already meeting the standard, then this bill simply formalizes what they're already doing. And if they aren't or won't, then it tells us exactly why we need this legislation. When there's too little or no competition, as is the case of Alabama, the standard has to be fair.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Senator Shellman, for sponsoring this bill.
Dave Wells.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Dave Wells. I'm the director of the PGEP Health Insurance Plan. We provide health insurance benefits, including dental benefits, for about 350,000 members in Alabama. About 180,000 of that have got our dental benefits. Our specific population are public employees. They're school teachers, they're retirees of schools, and they're the dependents. So being public employees, their compensations are more modest than a lot of people in Alabama enjoy. So our job at PGEP is to ensure that their benefits are high quality, but also as affordable as possible. In doing that, we've been pretty good. Over the last 9 years, we've had level legislative funding. Recently, the federal government has made some changes in Medicare Advantage that has greatly increased our cost, resulting in an increased legislative ask to this legislature, $149 million. If we had not had that regulation coming out of the federal government, we would have actually had a lower cost this upcoming fiscal year than last fiscal year. So therefore, our concerns simply lie around cost, and we simply cannot continue to absorb additional laws and regulations that put further financial burdens on our members or on additional asks to this legislature. So I'm available for any questions that you might have for me.
Thank you. Any members have any questions? Mr. Roberts.
What is a reasonable payout versus income for dental care?
Yeah, so wonderful question. Let me zoom out a little bit, if I can, in my answer. When we're talking about medical loss ratios on the medical side, you're primarily talking about exchange plans, all right? That's a totally different experience from what we do at PGEP. Our plan basically works as an amount of retained earnings that we pay for future and current cash outlays of claims. So if we have a low claim year and then the following year we have a high claim year, we rely upon the excess reserves in the previous years to pay for the upcoming year. We could not operate, we could not survive if every year on our medical side we were required to pay out to any defined ratio, because we have to allow for the volatility in future years. That same economics applies to our dental plan, where all of the legislative funding and all the member premiums goes into one pot of funding for PHIP for all of our responsibilities and claims. So another way to say that is that particularly for PHIP, that there is not a sensible loss ratio target for our specific line of business. That would be for a different type of insurance business model.
Would anyone else want to address that?
Yeah, I can.
Mr. Rattler?
Yes, so the context of, Mr. Wells talking about health and dental and why they are different. Health, your typical premium is about $500 for an individual. Our average dental premium is $26. So 15% of $500, we're doing the same amount of services, commissioning, claims, customer service, billing, everything. A healthcare is getting $75 a month. You can do the math on 15% of $26. $3 versus $75. And that's where the dichotomy about the loss ratio comes into play, and why there is a fundamental difference between dental and health is the actual number that you're taking the loss ratio. Yeah.
All right, seeing no further questions or comments, I just urge all these parties to get together and let's work something out, because we don't want our dentists all leaving the state. We graduate some great students and we need them staying in Alabama providing service. So thank you all. You are adjourned. Members, you're adjourned.